All right. Welcome to our One Blessed Mess. We're Ben and Liz, and we're parents of 6 kids that we had in 8 years. We are keepers of 8 chickens. We're currently homeschooling. We also have a entrepreneurial home. And in the midst of it, we have how many teenagers?
We have 4 teenagers, about to be 5 teenagers. So
5.
Let that sink in just a moment.
Yeah.
Almost 5 teenagers.
5 teenagers. I mean, we're basically running a youth group in our house. You should see our food bill. It is unbelievable how much food these kids can eat.
Or the laundry stacks. They're very big.
How about the smell when you walk into these teenage boys' rooms?
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, it's real.
It's almost like a wet dog smell. I don't know how else to say it. It's kind of unappealing. I would say that maybe.
Look, I just come in with air freshener. I'm putting thieves everywhere, essential oils, everything that I can think of. But here's the deal. We have got an awesome topic that we want to dive into today. And it's pretty fun because I didn't know that when I married this lovely man that is my husband, that I actually married a mutant. Ben's a mutant. Why don't you tell him?
It's true. I had some genetic testing done, and believe it or not, I have a mutation on the 14th chromosomal pairing. I think I'm saying that right.
Yep.
Don't crucify me if I
Is it the
if I said
short
that wrong.
arm? Wait, is it the short arm? Wait, how do we do this? Is it the short arm or the long arm? How do you do that? I don't
You mean
know.
the T-Rex arms?
The
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Oh.
And then how do you do the long arm, short arm? Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, so there's a mutation. It's actually a duplication on the 14th chromosome or chromosomal pairing. I know I'm saying that wrong. I just know it. But anyways, it's there. We have the test, and we got it done in 2011. And the reason I got the test was because our son had just been diagnosed with autism. And so back then, I don't know if they still do this now or not, but back then, they wanted to find out if it was you or me that passed on whatever it was genetically to him, or possibly could be the cause of it. We weren't sure.
Yeah, they weren't sure. And this is when everything was kind of rising more, and he had just received his diagnosis. And so they wanted to test this. They paid for it, which was pretty awesome. The children's hospital we were at. And then
it was like a really in-depth form of testing, like a microarray or something or other test. It was very specific. It was very costly. I think if we had to pay for it, it was going to be like about $10,000 for each test. Yeah. So
we would never do it. Like, we didn't have the money for it. So we agreed to it because why not? And anyway, something comes back and they say, we would like to get your DNA done for you parents. We found something in our son, and we want to see if, if there's something that's there. And anyway, ended up being that they rushed us through. Normally it takes 6 months. And within, I think, like a couple weeks, we were in the geneticist's office. But before we went into the geneticist's office, which, by the way, if you've never been in front of a geneticist, it is the weirdest experience. It's weird. Why is it weird?
Well, it's weird because the whole time when you're there, they're looking at you. They're like looking at the proportion of your head. They're checking the size of your ears, your nose. And it feels like you're kind of like just
naked.
Like you just
naked.
They're just analyzing you,
right at you.
And trying to figure out, okay, could it be this? Could it be? And I think we found out later, it's like, there's so many things that are determined by our genetics, the shape of our faces, all these things. And so like, if you've got someone that studies this all the time, then they're able to pick out these things and see if like your DNA kind of matches your physical form and what's driving what. And so it felt like you were just being analyzed.
It was wild. And here's the crazy thing. We didn't even bring our son.
Right.
The doctor was like, you didn't bring your son? No, nobody told us to bring our son. So then we had to get another appointment. God bless them. And people are on the wait list for over 6 months just to get an appointment. You're on the wait list for 6 months to get an appointment within, 6 months.
But we should say, so tell
the story. So
our son gets the test.
Right.
And then the geneticist is like, okay, we want you two to do it. And so we're waiting about a week or two. I don't remember exactly how long.
It's very quick, apparently.
you get a phone call first, right?
Yeah, I get a phone call. I'm at home with the kids and I get a phone call, and the lady on the other line, I have caller ID. Back then we had caller ID, and I knew it was from the hospital. I knew where it was from. And she says, "Is your husband there?" I said, "No, but I'm his wife. Can you tell me?" And she said, "No, I need to speak with him directly." And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. Okay. I said, "Well, he's at work. Here's his number. Give him a call." So back then we had IM, Instant Messenger, on AOL. I think it was AOL, wasn't it? Or was it Gmail? I don't know. I don't want to get into all that because good God help us. Okay. Anyways, because Ben can go down that rabbit trail about all the technologies, and I'm just like, did it work? Okay, we did it. Okay. So anywho, I quickly message him and say, "Hey, you're about to get a call. You better answer it because it sounds urgent."
Right.
So you get a call.
Yeah. So I get a call, and I can't remember if it was the geneticist or if it was someone helping, but they asked me how I was feeling.
Funny.
So like I pick up the phone. I'm like, "Hi, is this Ben?" "Yes, this is he." It's like, "Well, sir, this is so for the doctor's office, and I just would like to know how you're feeling today. And oh, by the way, are you sitting down?" And so a couple things were going through my head when they asked this question, because it was news to them that I had some type of genetic, abnormality. But think about it. Like, I've never been without that genetic abnormality. So my normal... I would never know if I'm feeling okay or not based on not having this deficiency or mutation, right? It was almost like they were asking me if I had a cold and if I was able to know the difference between having a cold and not having a cold. So it's just wild, right? Like,
yes,
I've never not known what it feels like to not be a mutant. So yeah, it was a weird way to start out the... So
they tell him basically, there's this whatever, we want you to come in and we want to talk to you. So we go in, and honestly, there was only one other person at the time. And what they told us is that as they're doing this genetic testing, they're going to find people all over the world with all kinds of abnormalities. Thank you. Abnormalities. Why is that word so hard for me? Anybody else out there have an issue with saying words sometimes?
Not to go down a rabbit hole, but it might be kind of your thing. That's okay. We all have things. I'm a mutant. You can't say words correctly sometimes. It's all good.
Let's not start.
But the cool thing was like our son was the first one that they found that had this specific abnormality. Now, we tried to figure out was that really the case, and we did some other research like a couple years later. I personally found some other people with it, but I'm not a geneticist. I don't know what I'm looking for. So maybe there is something super unique about him and he's in a book somewhere. At least that's what we were told. Or that he's at least in a few research papers.
Yeah, but somewhere.
Turns out that he and I have a mutation, and we're mutants.
Yeah, they're mutants. So then you have to understand, now Ben is all engaged about how he's a mutant, and it's like a whole world open up for him. He's like, "Do you think I can jump off buildings?"
Well, I mean, it didn't start out that way. I think it was more or less like, what do I need to do to, bring on whatever special powers I have from this mutation?
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, I've seen all the movies, right?
Walk through walls.
I didn't know if I just needed to stand a little closer to the x-ray machine the next time I'm at the dentist office, or, if I need to go get more sunlight or something, maybe it might, something's going to activate it. And then one day I'll have these special powers, and then, you guys will be jealous.
Yeah. So, basically I married a mutant. And Zeke did get this unique, our son did get this interesting mutation from him, not from me. But it was all about just seeing if his diagnosis that he had received was actually
from a genetic
something
or other.
Yeah. And it wasn't, because obviously, they're learning so many things right now. And actually with this topic, we were going through a really hard season.
We were. Yeah. It's a funny story, but at the time, it was very difficult because we were about 3 months in from the diagnosis, I believe.
Yeah. We got it in January.
When we got the genetic testing versus when we found out. And anyways, so it was a little time had lapsed, but we were still dealing with the fact that, our son was diagnosed with autism. And what did it feel like?
Well, at first, I knew that he wasn't developing like his older brother.
Yeah.
And so I thought, one, he couldn't hear because I would say his name, but he wouldn't respond like his brother was at that age. And
what age was this that you
I started noticing it at probably about 2.5, 3, probably more 3, and probably more 3, because we already had our third child, a daughter, and
he was non-verbal for a while.
Yeah, he only had like 20 words up until he was about 4.5. And then he was a late potty trainer. And I mean, there's just so many things in it. But, I started noticing some things. And also, too, it was like when he would look, it looked like maybe he was having a hard time focusing with his eyes. So I thought, okay, maybe he's having a hard time hearing. Because another friend of mine, her daughter actually ended up having a hearing problem. So she had her ears, her hearing checked. Maybe he's having a hard time seeing and he can't communicate. So he's not really telling me. And anyway, long story short, I went to get him all these tests done. And turns out he has incredible, impeccable vision. And his hearing is so good that they tell me he can probably hear a dog whistle.
And he has perfect pitch, which we didn't find out till later.
Yeah.
But he's able to tell you exactly what key or note something is, or what key something is written in. And
doesn't matter where we are.
We're not super musical.
No.
We like music, but we're not musicians. But apparently that's pretty rare as well. And he's fantastic at it.
Yeah, and so we can be in a grocery store or listening to a song in the car or something and say, "Hey, do you know what key this song is in?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's da da da." I mean, it's.
In fact, he's gotten so tired of telling us what key it is, he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, imagine that. He has an opinion. And so anyway, when we got his first diagnosis, it was pretty tough. It felt almost like a death sentence. And I think one of the reasons why it felt like that is because my understanding and my concept of what autism looked like I went to the nth degree of like, this is terrible. What is his life going to be like because of where he was?
Right.
I didn't see it as an adventure yet because it felt like a death. It felt like all the things that I thought that our son could do and have wasn't going to come to pass. And we've learned a lot through it. I mean, he is coming up on an 18th birthday. He's almost an adult. Yeah, he's almost an adult. And so, this is a long time ago. This is 15 years ago that we were, embarking on this journey, and we've learned quite a bit. And that's one of the reasons why we want to talk about this in our One Blessed Mess podcast, is because some of you out there may have somebody in your life that is going through this, where they just got the diagnosis, or maybe they've already had it and they're raising somebody that's on the spectrum. And there's different levels of the spectrum, of course. Our son was diagnosed as he got older with mild autism, high functioning. And, we were worried, like when he first, started talking and everything, that he would never voice his opinion. He would get run over.
What did they call that? So he started off when he was talking, it was like he would almost parrot. Yeah,
echolalia. So he would repeat what we were saying. And we got him the help. We got him the therapies. We did a lot of things. But, for me, I'm saying we, but for me, it felt like a death sentence, but I didn't see the beauty of the journey that was ahead. And I remember the psychologist that gave that diagnosis, she said to me, this is a gift to you to give this to him. And I thought, what? I'm like, I think it's a curse. I couldn't compute what she was saying, but now I understand, because it helps us understand our son. It really does help us understand.
And we did a specific training. That really helped us kind of see how to appreciate our son in a different way. And it was out in Massachusetts, and the program, I believe, is called Sunrise. Sorry. Sunshine, Sunrise.
And we're going to put it in
similar things.
We'll put it in the notes on this podcast too, because we'll it so helped us.
Yes.
But basically what happened is, somebody that I went to high school with, their son had received the same diagnosis. And this is like back when Facebook was becoming a thing. So we were living in a different city than we grew up in. And I connected with them and seeing this story, and reached out to them, and they said, you really should consider going to this program. And so we had to raise the money because we didn't have the money. And we had to make arrangements. I was then pregnant with my fifth kid, our fifth kid. And we went out there, and it was about a week long program for parents who had children on different parts of the spectrum, and really had testimonies of people walking out of autism.
And what was unique about this place is that they had pioneered a form of therapy that was based around joining your child and joining with them in the activities that they felt comfortable with. And so those activities they would call isms. And so our son, he liked to run, but you had kids there that we met. We didn't really meet the kids. We met the parents of these kids. But some of their isms were, pretty fantastical. One of them was like throwing up in a toaster and then burning his throw up by pushing it down. And so all kinds gross, of crazy stuff. Yeah, that was one of the extreme ones.
Yeah, and I mean screaming.
Some of them loved driving in a vehicle, and they had to be driven in order to calm down.
For hours.
The whole point of that therapy was that instead of disciplining them or trying to see their behavior as negative or bad, you would join in with them, right? And so it made them feel comfortable because here's this other human who's doing the same thing that I'm doing in order to feel comfortable. And so
it's a unique program. I mean, there's like a whole system in it. If this is something that you're interested in, do click on the link. And I mean, we are definitely fruit of that. Of that program. And actually the founders, their son was diagnosed with autism way before what we see now. And I mean, this is back when they would put kids in institutions. And so how this couple started and where they
and shock
went.
Therapy and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's terrible things that used to happen, in the 70s and the early 80s. But their son actually runs the program. I think he's still running it now. I am connected still on social media and see the testimonies that are coming out. And we, still had our son in regular therapies. He still was, doing speech. He was doing OT. Yeah, he was in a special preschool, which did ABA. But what we gathered from the Sunrise program, and it's kind of like the redheaded stepchild out there I hate saying that, but it's kind of like what it is in the autism community. People are like,
And I do want to pause for just one second and say that, there was kind of some drinking of the Kool-Aid there, like just a little bit of just weird spiritual influence. Yeah. But one of the things that Liz and I both came away with was like, why does this place feel so blessed? Like when we were there, when we were noticing, just like how we were perceiving God's thoughts and feelings about this place, we just felt such warmness, such like love and affection, and just like a enthusiasm to be there. And we kept thinking like, man, what is that? And then we realized like, here's a whole institution dedicated to the down and out, the ones who are kind of left on the side. And like, that's God's heart, right? He's there for the broken heart. He's there for the ones that are the outcasts. And we just felt like, man, these people are loving the unlovable. Yeah. And that's touching something in God's heart. And so we really felt like there was just favor over this place. We didn't agree with all the, some of the spiritual stuff or maybe all of the therapy, but the fact that they loved these kids and that they were really trying to seek their benefit was just amazing. Yeah.
And their therapies were basically mirroring. That's what you're talking about. So it's coming alongside the child, no matter how old they are. And they have like the way they do it is really cool. I mean, you do need to dig into it and just see. And there's testimonies. Our friends, the friend that I went to high school with, their son is thriving. He's working. He's a delight. He ended up being in our kids' piano classes, all those kind of things. And he's doing great. And our son is doing great. I mean, he's learning to drive. He's in normal classes. He gets up and does presentations. He is our most introverted kid.
Oh, by a long shot. Like, not even close.
When people come over to our house, they typically will meet like all of our kids except for one. He's kind of like that cat that, people maybe have in their house and you're like, did you say you had a cat? I haven't seen your cat. And then all of a sudden, about an hour later, like you see the cat. That's how our son
run
is.
By normally.
He runs by and they're like, oh, you do have 6 kids. Yeah. But he's like our most obedient. He's very scheduled personality, which is great because his mom is the opposite. I'm not super like scheduled discipline. I mean, we have a lot.
He follows a process extremely well, more so than any of our kids. And when you teach him something, he really learns it.
Yep.
And he's super studious. He's super diligent. And it's just a breath of fresh air because sometimes he'll even anticipate things. Like if you give him a chore, right, he'll even anticipate when he needs to do it next. And that's like such a nice a nice, I guess, difference between some of the other ones. They don't always have that quality. So
yeah, but he's faithful.
Yes,
he's very faithful, and even though we walked through like, so to speak, a dark night of our souls, and all the paperwork, the IEPs, all the meetings that I've been in, the doctor's appointments. His file is like this thick, right? It's like really high. The other kids are like super small, but it's okay. I didn't know that when we received that diagnosis, the beauty that would come 15 years later. And here's a young man who's almost 18, and he's looking at his future. He's talking about when he's going to live on his own. He's talking about holding a job. And he went from very few words to, he's still a man of few words, but he's very funny. He's very, very funny. This very kid, funny. Well, humor is a sign of intelligence. He knows when to say it and when not to say it. And when he says it, it's so brilliant. It's so funny.
And that does remind me of a story where he had a good punchline.
Oh, no. How much time do we have?
I think we can fit it in.
Do you think we can fit it in?
Yeah, I think we can fit it in. Maybe a little longer episode, but
are you talking about, was it a morning like this?
Was it a morning like this?
Oh, boy. Why don't you start it then?
Yeah, okay. So I had done something stupid recently prior to this morning, and I had fallen off my bike and ripped a little tear in my bicep from the handlebars, which we won't go into. It was really dumb.
But in our front yard.
Yeah, it was on the front. It wasn't even like riding in the trails. It was like me trying to get the bike onto the back of my vehicle so that I could take it to the trails. That's when I fell.
And your shoes didn't clip the way you thought.
I was like clipped in, and I didn't think I was, and I tried to come out of my clips, and I couldn't, so I just rode the bike all the way down like this and let go at the last second, and the handlebars whipped into me. I was trying to move my arm to brace myself. It was a bad combination. It ended up with me tripped to the emergency room. So.
Right, which is hilarious because this is funny because this has to do with our son. Like,
oh, Zeke, answer the door.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do this thing, and I have this hole in my arm. You probably can't see it, but anyways, the handlebar hits right there, and it's such a blunt force that it pops my arm open. Like it felt like getting hit with a hammer, which I don't encourage anybody to try that. But just the way that the wheel whipped and I was pushing my arm anyways, bad combination, popped my arm open. I look down, I see blood splurting. And so I'm like, oh crap, did I just hit an artery? So I grab it. I try to get out of my bike and unclip the pedals and scramble up. And so I'm holding my arm, like running to the door, trying to knock on the door with my elbow. And Zeke sees me and he kind of starts laughing. He's like, what are you doing, Dad? And
he's laughing at him.
He didn't know the door was locked because I went out the garage, and so I keep knocking, and he kind of like laughs and moves away. So I ring the doorbell with my nose. I'm like,
he's ringing the doorbell with his nose, and meanwhile, you guys, it's like 7-something in the morning, like 7:15, and we're trying to get kids ready for school. That's the day of a dentist appointment for all of them because our dentist takes all 6 at the same time, and so anyways, I'm like, we got a plan, and so finally, our son unlocks the door,
and I get inside and I'm like, I need to go to the emergency room right now. And
I'm thinking, how in the world do you need to go to the emergency room? And he's holding his arm. I thought he had broke his wrist. So I start screaming, somebody get a cutting board. I need a lanyard. And he's like, what are you talking about? Because I'm thinking I'm going to have to strap his arm down.
So like the reason is
like Mr. MacGyver.
So the reason is she thinks that is because that actually happened. That's
that's
a whole nother story, a whole nother son. And we had some quick thinking, and we were able to strap his arm down after he had broken it with a cutting board and made it to the hospital that way. So anyways, that's what Liz's first impression was.
That's what I'm thinking. And so he's like, no, I need to go now. I think I busted an artery. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, do I call an ambulance? He says, no.
Just take me.
Take me.
You take me. We get there. It turns out it wasn't an artery. It was a vein. So that was good. But the doctor did tell me, he's like, hey, you might not want to mention the fact that like you fell in their front yard and it wasn't even on a trail.
It wasn't
like,
even on
that's
a
kind
trail.
of a lame story. You need to make up a different story. So anyways,
funny.
I never thought of a new story. So unfortunately, I got to stick with the lame one.
So a couple days after this is Easter.
Yeah, I get stitched up.
He gets stitched up. Okay, so a couple days after this is Easter. And I had all the kids' Easter baskets ready. And so we decided that, okay, let's wake them up. We're ready. And I was like, you know what? What was I doing Easter like 20 years ago? And I have this memory of I used to live overseas and I did a dance to a song called Was It a Morning Like This by Sandy Patty. So Was It a Morning Like This? All right, look it up. It's quite operatic. It was very popular.
Vibrato.
Yes, yes, very vibrato. And so
how many times were you playing it that morning?
Quite a bit. So I cranked it up as loud as I could. To wake up the kids.
We do that. We're kind of the weird parents. We're like, when we need to wake up the kids, sometimes I will bang on the drum set as loud as I possibly can, or I will sing as loud as I possibly can, which is, nobody wants to hear that. Or we'll just crank up a song as loud as possibly. But anyways, Liz felt compelled to do that.
Inspired. So I get the music going, and Ben is in a bathrobe because it's early in the morning, and it's a fresh hot cup of coffee. Yep. And he's sitting holding
it with the other arm, I believe.
Yeah.
Because
not his arm.
I hurt my right arm, so I was holding my left.
Yeah.
Yep.
Details here. Details are important. So anyway, I'm like remembering the dance that I did to this song on Easter Sunday years and years ago. And I'm doing it, and the kids are getting up and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, what is this song?" I'm like, "It's an amazing song,
Like this.
It was a morning like this." So I'm like remembering the movements and all these things. And of course, Ben makes some kind of snarky comment or remark to our daughter. I think it was like, "You told her she's making breakfast." I don't know, but he said something. And she takes a pillow and throws it at her dad. When she threw the pillow, it hit his arm with the coffee.
I didn't think she realized I had coffee in my hand.
Yeah,
so
that's important.
She just threw the pillow right at me because, that's kind of normally how it goes. I say something snarky and get a reaction.
You guys
but
have
it hit me
great
right in the coffee.
It hit him in the coffee.
And the coffee went all over my arm, all over my stitches, all over my chest. Kind of gave me a little, wasn't to burn like a 3rd degree or anything like that, but It was definitely a red chest for a while.
Yeah. And so I start panicking because I'm thinking it got in the wound. What are we going to do? So I'm like, turn it off. I'm like, oh my gosh,
and
get
the
paper
music's
towels.
Still blaring.
Yeah, the music. I'm like, turn it off.
And everybody's going crazy, running around.
Yeah, it was a little crazy. I'm like, hurry.
And then what happens?
And then out of nowhere, our son emerges right up and he goes, "Was it a morning like this?" Oh my gosh.
It was great timing.
Great timing. And I'm like, well, maybe, I don't know. That's funny, but I need help, And anyway, we laugh about it to this day.
And that was Easter, right?
Yeah, it was just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But that's our point, is like, we thought something and it's turned into something much more beautiful.
Better than we could imagine.
Better than we could have imagined. And we're so grateful for that. So, when life feels like a death sentence, God is still on the throne, right, Ben?
Yeah, he is. And there's a verse that I was thinking about, and it's in 2 Corinthians, and Paul's talking about, I'll paraphrase it real quick, but basically he's despairing even of life. And I'll just go into it. "We do not want you to be uninformed, brothers and sisters, about the troubles we experienced in the province of Asia. We were under great pressure, far beyond our ability to endure, so that we despaired of life itself. Indeed, we had felt we had received the sentence of death. But this happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God, who raises the dead." And I mean, that's a great corollary verse, right? Like, when you think there's a death sentence, sometimes it's just, you gotta take a step back and realize that God has a plan and he has a way to deliver you. And we just needed to change our perspective.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did. We found life in it, and even when it felt like a death sentence and we were mourning. And it's okay to mourn. It's okay to, to feel that at times. It's just, you can't camp out there. And we didn't. And we're so thankful because the Lord really has blessed us, and it just, we needed a little perspective shift, and we just needed a little deliverance. And God's able to do that. He's able to bless you even in your messy life.
That's true. I love that scripture. I love those thoughts. And our son is such a shining and bright light.
He really is.
He really is. And he's such a joy. I love mothering him. I love parenting him. He would call himself an Aspie.
Yeah.
They don't really give that diagnosis anymore of Asperger's.
Asperger's, right.
But he would say he's an Aspie. And there's an author that we want to talk about at some point on this podcast. Our favorite author. That we want to talk about, who is an Aspie and has really given our son, I think, courage to face the challenge and be who God has designed him to be. And anyway, it's very exciting. But we just want to say thanks for being a part of our One Blessed Mess today. Our acronym, what's our acronym, Ben?
Oh, 1BM.
01 BM, our 1 BM. We just want to also say, don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend who you think may need this encouragement.
Yeah.
You know, we're just broken people. We have a messy life, but we hope that it encourages others along the way. And we also want to encourage you to follow us on Instagram. Our handle is at our 1, numeric 1, blessed mess. Looks like the sign right here. But until next time, we just want to say, embrace your beautiful mess, right?
Yep.
Because if our mess can be blessed,
then so can yours.
so can yours. Have a great day.
See ya.